Okay, and that's live TV, I guess. Let's see if we're working. We are on. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
Well, that's because she wanted to jump up.
That's right. She wanted to jump up. Thanks for joining me. I just wanted for a minute, we really appreciate Mark Sherlith being on the show yesterday. There were some great comments. There was also some kind of, I think, negative comments. This show is about helping people. This show is about hope. It's about faith, courage, and endurance. It's about all of us together, collectively, helping one another out through great issues and small issues and successes and all those things. And so I would hope that all the comments that are posted or are on here would be to the person that's on, or to the topic at hand, or what we've talked about. I hope you'll continue to watch, hope you'll continue to post and share and be a part of this. Without further ado, thanks for having me here in your home, Berkeley. I appreciate it a lot.
You're welcome.
You and I'll be up front. Berkeley's one of my clients and has a story that I think everyone should hear. And so I asked her to come on. We had a little bit of a foul up this morning, and so I apologize for that. But here we are in her home. She was gracious enough to have me here, and we're going to get started. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your journey, and some things that come to mind.
You mean how I didn't like you very much like 6 years ago?
I hope she's not talking real loud. You got to talk up.
Okay.
How she didn't like you. Go ahead. Go with that. Yeah, go with that.
Well, you were too good at your job, and you were doing your job well.
Uh-huh.
But at the time, it's not the happiest time in my life. So, but now we're friends. So
Right. Exactly. So I was a police officer at the time, and you were basically a wife and a victim of some things that were going on with your husband at the time.
Yeah.
He was doing some not so good things, and it was probably kind of a culmination of a lot of years of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, he was doing some sexual battery or some improper touching of females and things like that. It was big news. It was 2010, right? It was when I was running for sheriff.
Yeah, 9 and 10.
And 9 and 10, and I remember, giving the news. I remember allowing the news to have, they obviously had access to everything. So that was a trying time.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy the cameras very much for quite some time. They were at the house. I think he was on Utah's Most Wanted. He was on that show for an entire week.
Mm-hmm.
That was very stressful. I remember I would go to work at night and change my name tag and change my name, and that was really hard. I learned a lot.
Brought a lot. What did you learn? Probably brought a lot of, obviously, attention to your family, and you have children.
Yeah.
You have children that...
They're 11 and 8 now. It's been 6 years since that. And I think one of the biggest things I learned is that it can be a lot more simple.
Right.
That when something that big happens, you just kind of slow everything down and go, it's got to be more simple than it's, it was, yeah. So anyway, I'm married to a wonderful guy now.
Good.
So that's...
And what, during that time, I guess let's talk a little bit more in depth as far as your faith and your conviction, and I guess the courage to carry on during that time. What was it that really kept you going at that time?
My children.
Isn't that amazing,
Right.
How that always seems to come up,
And it still is.
Still is.
They were barely 2. Amy had just turned 2, and my son was 4. It was just a whirlwind. It was. I didn't know if I was going to make it through. Some mornings, just waking up and just not believing this can't be my life. There can't be news cameras outside. I can't be driving in my car for a week and going to court. And I stood by him initially.
Did you believe, obviously you believed that he was innocent for a while, and then was there a moment that you found that it probably wasn't.
Yeah, the internet is great.
Oh.
I learned how to work a computer. I was
Right.
basically that mom that paid the bills, and I had some really good friends at the time who kind of showed me an easy way to look things up, and I found out a bunch of lies, and that was really hurtful.
Right.
That's the most hurtful, I think, is you just want to know the truth so that you can make decisions and know what you're dealing with, and if you're forgiving, what you're forgiving.
Right.
And it just also, just one day, just everything, I found out all these charges, and felony charges, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got preschoolers. That was hard. And then once that all settled, he pled down to misdemeanor charges. I didn't have to, take the letters off of my son's jersey anymore. We would go to his baseball games, and we put his name on the back, and I thought, oh, I don't, it was really hard. Honestly, for 2 years, everywhere I went, I thought, they're going to recognize us. They're going to know the name. They're going to see the news stories. That's not what I wanted.
Right, right.
So
time after time, over time, that kind of went away. How long were you guys married?
9 years.
9 years, okay.
And we'd been together for 3 or 4 before that, so quite some time. And I really don't know. In Utah, there's these new, the memes that came out recently about pornography and Ashley Madison and online dating and all of that. And so just my story was that I was married to someone who, I don't know, maybe he was on 15 sites while we were married, and I had a 1-year-old, and it just kind of hit me and surprised me, and okay, so I wanted to deal with that, but not with all these charges.
I think there's a lot of women out there, I know there's a lot of women out there that have had husbands that have been involved in, really heavy duty pornography, and not to the extent, sometimes they're charged with the wrong type of, I guess the wrong type of pornography is probably not the best, but you know what I'm saying. But his charges were based on what he was doing as a massage therapist, not the pornography that he was doing. What I guess my point is there's a lot of women out there dealing with that, and what is that? What is it? I know it's horrible on the ego, and probably very much so, but other things, anything that, any kind of advice or anything that you can, great wisdom that you could give in those situations.
Get a dog, because they will love you no matter.
And look at you the whole time. He's looking at me like, you're weird.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's definitely that cycle where I was just so insecure and so broken. Well, now I'm bowed.
You weren't broken, because you'd be dead if you were broken, but you were bowed. That's good.
I sure felt like it for a while, and it was really hard to come out of that, and the insecurity and the blame, and what did I do, and so I think women need, and everyone, you just need to trust yourself and get a space, some quiet time to just think and use your intuition and trust yourself, because I got some good advice from my former mother-in-law, and we're still close, and she said to me, people are going to tell you all kinds of stuff. They're going to give you reasons and long arguments, but at the end of the day, you're the one that has to live with your decisions.
Right.
So that really helped me eventually when the truth came out about some things, and then the relationship got really bad because all of a sudden I wasn't loyal and I was questioning him. I said, there's more to this. I found out all these things, and I said, this is not the relationship I want. This is not the person I want to be.
What gave you that courage? Was it the truth? What gave you the courage to, eventually just, you left him, you probably supported him through the
worst
court time, but what was it, because I'm sure that you were in the process of either forgiving him or not, but, how did that courage to finally just say, I'm done with it, where did that come from?
A combination of things, but again, my kids. Looking at my kids and them asking me questions and realizing this is not what I want to show them as a woman, as a mother. I wanted to show them how to be stronger, and not just, okay, I forgive you, you can kind of look at maybe Cosby, or there's lots of women who maybe they can, I don't know, at first she stood by him. I don't know what's going on with that now, but I stood
Yeah,
next
she's
to
being deposed now, but in support of him, but yeah, still.
I don't know, that's a hard place to be. I know that when I was there and I was loyal, and then I found out more information, and it was just too much, and I talked and I trusted other women. I trusted all my friends. I started listening and really going, okay, and then trusting myself and saying something isn't right. And I had so much support and a really good, a different trainer. God, she was great. You know, she was wonderful.
The women are always the women trainers are always wonderful.
She made me, she'd make me run.
Well, you just wait. So she was a force, or she was somebody that helped you through it. So you had a pretty good support system.
Yes.
Suggestion to many is to try and find some kind of support system.
Yes, don't isolate yourself.
That's a good point. I don't know what it's like to go through it, and maybe there's someone going through it out there right now, but I would think isolation in any situation, especially that one, would be pretty difficult.
Yeah, I wanted to quite a bit.
Because you probably fall back in, I don't know, but would you fall back into that, oh, I'm not good enough, you know, let me give him another chance, let me, you know, I feel sorry for him now that, you know, that kind of a thing. Instead of maybe making choices that would be a little bit better.
Yeah, and I know there are other circumstances where other people can work things out. It just wasn't possible with our situation. The trust was just there, and I never got an apology. I always, the entire time, and you can Google it now, you can look this up, and even now, all of a sudden my son knows, and I never told him it, so Dad said, oh, that never happened, and so you can Google it, it did happen. Sorry. I lived through it. But if I had ever just gotten, yes, I'm sorry, then I could have known what I was forgiving, or what I was accepting, or what I was dealing with. But never getting that, I was finally able to, with the support of my friends and everyone, just say, I want to do something better. This is not where I want my life to be.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. We talked about your faith. We talked about a little bit of the courage there in that situation. You're still dealing with some of these issues, family issues with him and the kids. And again, it's about the kids, I'm sure, and trying to pull it through for them and trying to make life good.
Yeah. We watched an interesting movie the other night, my kids and I. It was the Mandela movie. I think it's called The Long Walk to Freedom.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I honestly didn't know very much about, I had like a basic background, you know, about racism, but seeing the whole story in chronological order, what my takeaway from that, I was talking to my daughter, was that retaliation and holding on to that, even though you can be justified in being angry and someone has wronged you, and you know, you're never going to get an apology. You don't get the time back. You may never know the truth, and there is no good reason. There may not be a good reason. It may just be, tragedy. Life just happens. So you just have to let go of that, because we were talking about that phrase, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. And my daughter was, I don't know, how does that mean? What's that mean? And I was saying, well, we can go around, I can be justified and be angry and, you know, my whole life and carry this with me, or we can move on and we can learn to, we've adopted 3 dogs, we can learn to do good for other people and put that behind us in the anger, because you're not going to get that time.
It doesn't mean you won't go through that process of anger and, you know, whatever,
depression,
sorrow, the whole
anxiety.
thing. But no, that's great stuff. That's really good stuff. Switched gears a little bit. You're an ex-military.
Right, and here I am. Yeah, I am. I was a Navy corpsman, an EMT, and I was at Bethesda Naval Hospital. Active duty. I enlisted at age 17. So way back when, that's what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, just like I'm 25. No.
Yeah, and so what's been great is that even though that was so hard years ago, and there was a point where I was taking antidepressants, I needed like Valium every week, sometimes daily, when going through these court things and facing people, and back then there was a lot of stuff in the media.
Right.
I had to stop reading all the comments and all the feeds and all the stories. It was just, okay, unplug. So there was some times when I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to face the world. What am I going to, and I got my associates last year at Salt Lake Community College. I'm at Westminster now. I'm studying public health and pre-nursing, and so now I'm kind of, oh, wait, this is what I wanted to do 10 years ago,
Right.
15 years ago, and so I think I'm really lucky that.
So your plans are kind of in set. You're kind of back to, you're in a good place now.
Yeah.
That's good. What, I guess, we've had a variety on even just this last week and a half, but what would be your ultimate advice to someone that's going through, and I know we didn't really paint the huge picture, but what would be your advice to somebody that's going through, that's trauma, and how to get out of that and to get to a place where I think you are right now?
There's a lot of factors, but definitely hug your kids, keep them close, turn off the TV, turn off the devices, get some time, go for a run, exercise, just quality time, and then bring your friends in close. As many friends, whoever supports you, whoever's positive, bring all those people into your life, because that's what you need to get through all of that. If I didn't have my best friend Sarah, she's wonderful. She's a social worker, so she says those great little things like, "Oh, that must be so hard for you." She's got all those little phrases.
This is what I'm hearing.
So how did that work out?
Yeah,
I get really mad at her, but sometimes I laugh, and then other times, she says, "Open a bottle of wine and relax." Right? Did you put your clothes on? They were, you got dressed today. Did you feed the kids? Everyone alive? Okay, you did. There were days like that, and then there were the really good days, and you just have to.
Did you find, thought came to mind, did you find any support groups along the way? Any women that were going through the pornographic world, and then obviously the crimes that he was involved in. But did you find anything here in Utah, or do we have a hush-hush community sometimes? Probably both, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess the bigger picture was that he had done some crimes that were public. It was in the media.
Right.
And that I knew nothing about until they became public. Literally, all of a sudden, it was on TV one day. And I stood by him, and then 2 years later, and then we were fighting, and then there was domestic violence, and then there was.
That's right.
A horrible year there.
That's right. Okay.
And I realized, okay, whatever's going on here, just put a stop to it. The kids don't need to see it. I kept a lot from them. They, in fact, not that they wouldn't look you up, but they don't have Facebook, and they won't, so they didn't know anything about their father and that. I kept that from them. I lost my train of thought.
But yeah, we were talking about support groups or potential groups that might have been around, or was it just your friends?
So after going through all of that really hard time, now I've made some wonderful friends. There's one group called Team RWB. It's
RWB.
Red, white, and blue.
Okay.
It's a veterans group, and they're just wonderful. They're a fun group of people. I've got 5 or 6 really close friends in the group, and there's about 500 people in the Salt Lake group alone. And and it's nationwide.
Oh.
So we go running, we go hiking, we do 5Ks, we do 10Ks. We went bowling last week. It's social, and it's also exercise, and anyway, they've been wonderful.
Wow.
And one of my friends, you really need to talk to her. One of my friends that I met through the group, her name is Marcy, and she is involved in a program in Utah called Darkness to Light. And
Darkness to Light.
It is child sex abuse prevention. So she's an ex-police officer, so she's really involved in what she wants to do is bring to Utah an awareness, open the conversation up, like you're doing. Talk about things that people might be embarrassed or ashamed of, or
sexual assault, sexual impropriety on children in Utah is as we all know, all we have to do is read the news, and it really is true. It's not something that's being, propagated by the media, the regular media. It is a problem,
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can have her on, but
Yeah.
so she became a pretty good support too as well.
Yeah. But one of the things she always says to me, and it relates to, she's also a teacher, and so in that program and how she's bringing about prevention groups and trying to talk to the legislature and trying to, in fact, she works with police officers, and they, her point is open the communication, talk, whatever it is, whatever. So I was embarrassed, and I didn't want people to know, kind of hid for a while, except for my close friends, because of all the publicity. And what she's been saying is, no matter what your story is, like you're doing, no matter what it was you went through, talk about it, put it out there, because if someone else hears about it and they have a similar situation, at least you feel like you're not the only one, and at least you feel like, well, they made it through, so what can I do?
Right.
And I do have a couple other friends, and don't want to put them on the spot or anything, but
no, you don't have to.
Wonderful mothers, people who just encouraged me and said, it takes a couple of years. They said, honestly, don't expect yourself next month to be better. Don't expect it to be easier tomorrow. But if I look now, I've been divorced 4 years. Oh, okay. So you can't expect it overnight, and you can't beat yourself up. You just one step at a time, and sometimes you just look at your kids and hug them, and you just know it's going to get better.
Well, you're a real warrioress. That's the word that I use. Do you have anything else to add? I mean, you really do have a breadth of wisdom to you. Once in a while you'll send me little quotes on judgment and things like that, and all those kinds. It's very similar to what we're doing here. This is a no judging zone. This is a no judgment zone. We're going to have people on here that we're going to have controversial people like Mark yesterday, and we're going to have all kinds of different types of folks. And I think, this format and what you're talking about is getting the word out in a social way, not the mainstream media. Not that there's anything bad about the mainstream media, not bashing. It's just, I think this is more raw. This is more talking it from the heart and talking from the genuine point of view. But that's a long way of asking, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I guess along that line, I do think people need to be careful in judging. If you haven't been there, if you haven't, I know you get a lot of, I would call it persecution, or I don't know, harassment, or, and there were times when I thought, oh my gosh, someone's going to recognize, and what did I say and do, and I made mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. But I think for everyone, if we can just be a little bit more compassionate and understand that we don't know what someone else is going through. We don't know what their morning was like. We have no idea,
True.
that they just left court or just found out something like I
their
did.
wife just told them, or their husband just told them they're leaving them. Whatever. Who knows what it is.
They left the hospital. There's so many things, and we're driving and we honk, and every little thing we have to, I think, as a society, not be so quick to be so angry and take everything so personal. And I even had to learn, that was part of my getting over, okay, that was a bad marriage, let me move on, I can find, was, okay, I'm not going to take this personal, stuff happens, and okay, it is what it is, and hopefully people that judged me back then will know that I've become a lot more open, and there were so many people that tried to reach out that I didn't listen to, and I wish I had back then. Thank goodness I listened eventually, but definitely, you better be perfect if you want to. That was the
quote that she sent me a couple days. Well, was it yesterday or the day before? And I don't know what the topic was. Somebody was bashing somebody, or maybe you better be perfect yourself.
The rest of your life.
The rest of your life.
And
that's what this is all about. Thank you for allowing me to come into your house.
You're welcome.
I don't know what our time's like, but I don't want to get cut off. But thanks for letting me come in and talk about. And I want to thank you out there watching, and we'll watch. Hopefully you'll pass these on and share them. And if something strikes a chord in you, or something that is said, or you'd like to share your story, please please get a hold of us on this channel, BEAU'D Not Broken, and my phone number's all over there. You can make comments and things like that. Remember, it's all about the Bend, and we hope to see you tomorrow with a new guest. Thanks, Berkeley.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Take care, everybody. Yeah.